In the last video, I went over how to find the formulas for compounds ending in ATE. Those are the compounds that consist of a nonmetal as well as oxygen. So you should review that before you go on to this video. In this video, I'm going to go over the derivations of the ates, specifically the ites, the hypoites. So it starts with the prefix hypo, ends with the suffix ite. The perates, and then finally I'll do the biates. Okay, so you recall from the previous video that when you start with the formula of an ate, and let's start with carbonate. You can then derive any of the combinations that I've listed above by knowing a few simple rules, and this is -2. All right, so if we start with the ite is one less oxygen than the ate. One less oxygen than the ate. So it doesn't matter what the formula is of the ate, it's always going to have one less oxygen to go to the ite. So this is carbonate, and if we want carbonite, we would simply take away an oxygen. So we would have CO2. You don't ever change the charge, so you need to know the charges, and then they just carry along. The hypoites are going to be two less oxygens than the ate. So let's actually do that in a different color. Okay, so two less. All right, so if we wanted to go to let's say hypophosphite. All right, so we would start with phosphate, which you'll recall is PO4 minus 3. That's phosphate. And so hypoite, or in this case hypophosphite, would be two less oxygens than the ate. So 2 less than 4 is going to obviously be PO2, same charge, and that will be hypophosphite. Now if I had done that with the carbon instead of a CO2, because I only started with 3 oxygens, the hypocarbonite would be just CO with a -2 charge. All right, perate is going to be one more oxygen, one more. And so if we pick another one, let's pick chlorine. So again, we always go back to our 8, and that's going to be a -1. And so perchlorate would be one more oxygen than what we started with, so that would be ClO4. Again, we never change the charge, so the charge is going to stay the same as what it was with the chlorate. So there's perchlorate. Finally, the biate, that means you're adding an H+. Now, sometimes if it's a -1, when you add a H+, you're going to end up with an acid. You're not going to have a charge anymore, so it wouldn't apply to the -1 anions, but if it's -2 or -3, then it's going to apply. So, for example, if we start with sulfate, which is SO4 -2, bisulfate would be HSO4, and since we've added an H+, that plus is going to take away one of those negative charges, and so the overall charge on this ion when you add +1 and -2 is going to be -1. And again, the same thing would apply, these same rules would apply to any of the 8s.